So now let's move on to bar plots in Matplotlib. But before we create a bar plot, we have to make some changes to our data frame. So here we imported Matplotlib as PLT and pandas as PD, and we loaded our CSV into a data frame. And we were bringing up the top 5 rows in our data frame. Here we renamed the country column to country, and we set the in place is true so that the changes remain in our data frame. And then we created a new data frame, and we only wanted the region column and the population column. And you see we have it here. And then we grouped by our region column, and we want the sum of the populations that we grouped by the region column. And you see we got this data frame. And next we reset the index, because here the region column is the index. And then when we use the reset index function, region and column becomes its own columns. So before we create a bar plot, we have to create a figure object. So we set fig equals to, set the fig size to 5 by 5. Let's run that. And you see we created our plot area. Now let's add our axis. And we're gonna set this as 1, 1 because we want the plot size to be 5 by 5. If I set this to 0.5, it will be half of the figure size. Now let's set our X label. If you're not sure of what I'm doing here, just refer to the previous lesson, and we explained figures, axes, and subplots. So I want to call the label region. I'm going to call that total population. And then I'm going to set a title. Axis.set underscore title. Region. Now let's run that. And you see we created our plot area. I'm gonna take this down a little bit. Give this 0.2 or 0.6. Now that's a little smaller. And give it 0.4. Now let's go at 0.6. So I'll set it to 0.7. So now let's plot our bars. So here set a note, plotting the bars. So we call the matplotlib function plt.bar. And in between brackets, we call our data frame and the region column for the X, and the population column for the and let's run that. And you see we plotted our bars. If we want to remove this, we can add plt.show as the last line here. And you see it was removed. If we want to change the colors to our bar plot, we just add the color argument, and let's change it to red. And let's run that. And you see our bar plot's been changed to red. We can add a list of colors for each bar. So we put it in a list. And the first one I want to be red. The second one be blue. The third one be purple. And the fourth one could be white. Let's run that. And you see we changed our colors. Let me just erase this because it doesn't look nice. I'll run that. We can sort this in descending order by just sorting the population in descending order in our data frame. So call data frame 2 dot our sort values function. gonna sort it by the population column. And then we set the ascending to false, because by default it's in this ascending order, and we change the in place to true. In place equals true. And let's run that. Oh, I spelled ascending wrong. So let's run that. And let me run this cell again. And you see it sorted the bars in this ascending order. So now let's create a horizontal bar chart next to this. And I'm gonna do this using subplots. So we're gonna set our figure, and we put our, I wanna make 2 bar plots, so 1 axis and axis 2. And I'm gonna set that to plt.subplots. And the arguments it takes is we want 1 row and 2 columns of axes, and then we want the fig size to be, let's set it to 10 by 5. And let's set the tight layout to true. If you don't understand what I'm saying here, just refer to the previous lesson. And let's run this. Oh, I spelled subplots wrong, so put a P here, and let's run it. And you see we got our plots. Now let's set labels and titles for the first axis. And I think I'm just gonna copy from this one here. Let me copy this, Control C, Control V to paste. And I'm gonna rename this as AX1. And then I'm gonna set the labels and titles for the second axis. So let me just copy this, paste it here. For the second axis, I'm gonna change this to axis 2. And then I'm gonna make some changes here. I want the Y label to be country, the X label to be population, and I want the title to be total population by country. Let me run this. And you see we created our plot area and gave it labels and titles. So now let's plot our bar. So I'm gonna call our axis dot bar. We're gonna put the same thing here, Control C, paste it in here. And I'm gonna set this to bar 1 and give our notes for bar 2. I'm gonna call our second axis. And I'm gonna make this second one horizontal. So let me set bar H. And in the brackets, we want the country column in our data frame and the population. And the reason why I put this bar H is because I want it horizontal. So let's run that. Now the reason why we're getting this mistake is because I'm calling the data frame 2. I'm calling a column from the data frame 2 that doesn't exist. So this is data frame 2. But I'll call my data frame. So let me just erase this 2. So we call out our data frame. And let's run that. And you see we got both our plots. And you see we got a horizontal bar plots because we used the bar H function for axis 2. So this is how to create bar plots in Matplotlib.